coming out to the library tonight. Thank you to the Oblenis Foundation and the Friends of the Athens Library for funding our book camp program.
These animals are not on exhibit, so if you come to Columbus Zoo, you see the penguins, the lions, the giraffes. We do not have those in our van. Trust me, the lions are too big for that. But our animals are strictly animal ambassadors. So we do a lot of education programs. We go to elementary schools, middle schools, high schools. We travel all over the country with our animals to educate people about the natural world. These animals that you're meeting today have been to New York City, they've been to Florida, they've been to Mississippi. Some of them have even flown all the way to San Diego to California. So these are little animal celebrities. This is Blanche, and Blanche is only 9 months old. So how many kids out there like to eat jelly beans? Raise your hand. I love jelly beans too. Parents, you're allowed to love jelly beans too. Now, I want you guys to picture, you can put your hands down. I want you guys to picture the pink flavored jelly bean, the pink colored jelly bean. When Blanche was born, that's kind of what she looked like. And that's about as big as she was. She was about the size of a pink jelly bean. She had no hair. She was blind. Her eyes hadn't even developed yet. All she had was her nose and 2 little arms to army crawl into the pouch. Now for a kangaroo that's that big, her mom is as tall as I am. It takes her 30 minutes to get into the pouch where all the milk is when she's a baby. So can you imagine how much hard work it would be for a tiny jelly bean baby to crawl through all that kangaroo mom's hair to get into the pouch? It's a lot of work. So a lot of times, this is scary, kids. I want you to pay attention because mom could do this to you at any second. Just kidding, she won't do this. But kangaroo moms kick their babies out of the pouch sometimes. They say this, some parents' face light up, they're like, yeah. Just kidding. But what kangaroo moms can do that humans can't do, they can have 3 babies at one time. So mom kangaroo, she might have one that's as big as that cute little pink jelly bean that she just had. And then she might have one that's 3-4 months old that's a little bit bigger, probably about half the size of Blanche. And then maybe she has one Blanche's size. Now the problem with being the oldest child, if you're a kangaroo, is you're most likely the first one to get kicked out of the pouch. Now that's kind of how we got Blanche and another kangaroo, Betty White. They got kicked out of the pouch too early. Mom basically said one day, all right, it's time to get out of here, let's move along. And she was only about 7 months old, which for a kangaroo, that's pretty young for her to be out on her own. So we got a call from another smaller zoo and they said, hey, can you take care of Blanche? And we said, sure, we'd love to. But you can kind of see how her feet are sticking out. The way that she folds up, Blanche is very good at yoga. She can completely fold up her body to fit inside a pouch. And this is her whole entire foot. I'll point it out right here. Calvin can show you guys. This is her whole entire foot. She wears about size 7 in women's shoes, and she's only 9 months old. Now, what's really cool and interesting about kangaroos is they move a lot differently than we do. You guys can sit back down and relax. Good job. They have different muscles and different hips, so they can't do what we do. So they have to jump. It's just like a bunny rabbit. Their legs have to go together as well. So when they're moving, they can actually jump about 20 feet. You know that feeling when you get stuck in the front seat and your friends are in the back seat of the school bus and you want to get to the back, but you don't know how to sneak past the bus driver? Well, basically, if you're a kangaroo, you can jump all the way from the front seat of the bus and go all the way to the back seat of the bus in one leap. When they're hopping at full speed, they go about 40 miles per hour.
Wow.
So if you can imagine, when she's full grown, she's going to be about my height. She'll probably weigh well over 100 pounds, and she could literally go 40 miles per hour when she's hopping. So if she decides something sounds funny on the right side, this ear moves this way. And then if something sounds funny on the left, this ear moves this way. So each ear can do its own thing. They don't have to move at the same time. What's happening now is Beatrice hops around all of the pathways and tries to get picked up by strangers. So we have a radio system at the zoo, so every time after Beatrice got introduced to the new kangaroos, someone would get on the radio and said, Docent to Kangaroo Keeper, could somebody please come pick up Beatrice? She is standing in the pathway in front of this family and will not move. A group of kangaroos is called a mob, and now she hangs out there full time, and she's not blocking the pathways as well as she used to, but I always found that pretty entertaining. He's smaller than the barn owl, and he kind of screams like those, though. Anybody else have a guess? They scream like girls. What do you think in the black shirt? Great horned owl, he's even smaller. I'll just tell you guys, you know, screech owl, exactly. So the screech owls actually just pretty much scream like girls. And this is as big as he'll ever be. He weighs less than a candy bar sitting on Calvin's hand. He's a teeny tiny little guy. Now, his name is Otis, and we actually got Otis from somebody that rescued him from when he was a little chip. Now, that's something that we do at the zoo, too. Sometimes we'll get calls from, like, bird sanctuaries or wildlife rescues, and they say, hey, we have this owl, we have an eagle. You know, we can't release them out into the wild. They've had some kind of injury, or maybe they're too young. And most of the time, we'll be able to bring them into our collection and take care of them. But that's how we got Otis. Now, maybe if you guys up front can see, the other ear is down low on the other side. So he has one ear that's high and one ear that's low. So because his ears are so special and different than ours, if we were to put a little owl blindfold on Otis, which I wouldn't do, but if we were to do an experiment, we put a little blindfold on, we dropped a live mouse down into this crowd, he would be able to find the mouse without using his eyesight at all. That's how sharp his hearing is. Now, his eyesight is really cool too. What he can do at night that we can't do is he can actually function without any light at all, fly over an area and see a tiny mouse moving on the ground. Something I definitely can't do. Now, his eyes are very strange though. Can you guys look left, right, up, down without moving your head? You can look all around. Otis can't do that. Owls cannot move their eyes. His eyes are so big that if you had eyes as big as Otis, you would have oranges on your head. And because those eyes are so big, there's no room for eye muscles in there. So those eye muscles that we have that allow our eyes to move all around all crazy, Otis doesn't have those. Now, if his eyes take up so much space inside his skull, what else is small in there? I hear some adults saying it, his brain. Owls actually are not very smart. So when people tell you about the wise old owl, that's not true at all. Owls are not smart animals, but they're hunting machines. Now, if you guys feel these bones in the back of your neck, you feel those hard neck bones? Humans have 7 bones in their neck. We have 7 bones. If you go to the zoo and you see a giraffe, they have 7 bones in their long neck. If you find the mouse that Otis the owl has hunted and taken, even mice have 7 bones in their neck. The owl has 14. He has 14 bones in his neck. So he can't spin his head all around all crazy. He can't do that. But what he can do is if you imagine a clock, he can look at the 12, turn his head all the way around like this, and go all the way over to the 9. So if you can imagine being an owl as a parent, you literally have eyes on the back of your head at all times, which is perfect when you have kids. Screech owls will hunt a lot of insects, but their favorite thing to eat are mice. Now, if you're an owl, you probably don't travel with a fork and knife, right? No. All they have is their beak and their talons. So what we do every night, I open up out at Otis's house, I hand him a whole entire mouse. It's already dead, he didn't hunt it, we do all the work for him. We open up the door, I hand it to Otis, he flies to his perch, and what he uses is his beak and his sharp talons to eat the whole entire mouse. But because he doesn't have a fork and knife like we do, he eats all the bones and he eats all the fur, which is kind of gross, but that's what owls do. And his body actually doesn't need that at all. So what they do is they cough up a little tiny pellet, and I've actually seen him do it on a program before. He opens up his beak, a teeny tiny pellet, it's about this big, coughs up out of his beak, and what you kids can do at home, you can actually ask your parents or whomever you want, ask them if you can order an owl kit online, and they'll send you a pellet, and you can actually open it up, you can clean all the bones inside, and you can figure out what your owl was eating out in the wild. But this little dude following Calvin around is Wahoo. Wahoo is an African black-footed penguin. Now when you guys think of penguins, do you think hot or cold? You think cold. Now, if you think of Africa, do you think cold or hot? Hot. This penguin lives in Africa. Now, there are 17 different kinds of penguins, but most of them live in warm weather climates. So Wahoo is from this species is from the southern coast of Africa, and they actually hang out on beaches and really rocky areas. The reason he follows Calvin around is because Calvin has been his fish feeder his whole entire life. So Wahoo has literally known Calvin since he was 6 weeks old. And he's been hand-raised since he was a little chick. Now, when he was hatched, though, his feathers did not look like this. He had those fluffy, downy feathers that kept him really warm when he was a baby. And then after about 2 months of age, he lost all those feathers and got a whole new set. Now, their feathers are pretty special. If you guys hold up your thumb and look at your thumbprint, your thumbprint holds the space for about 60 penguin feathers. Can you believe that? 60 penguin feathers fit on the tiny space of your thumbprint. So penguins cannot even fly, but they have more feathers on their body than any other kind of bird in the whole entire world. And you can see how he struts around. Calvin is Wahoo's favorite person in the whole entire world. I have no idea why. It must have something to do with fish, and he's known him since he was a baby. But they also have really interesting eyes. What do you guys like to wear in your eyes when you go swimming in the summer? Goggles. You think Wahoo carries goggles around in a little beach bag? Probably not. Oh, he's going to flirt with you too. That is so nice. Now, seeing as how Wahoo doesn't actually wear goggles when he's in the ocean or in his penguin pool, he has built-in goggles. So if you open and close your eyes, you have a top eyelid and a bottom. He has an extra one. He has a third one, and it's clear, and it goes across his eye left to right, and that's so he's able to keep his eyes open underwater. Now, earlier we were talking about how fast little kangaroos can go. Now, I want you to picture the ocean. Is the ocean flat or wavy? It's very wavy. Wahoo only weighs 7 pounds. That's it. That's all he weighs. He weighs 7 pounds, but he can swim 20 miles per hour in the wavy ocean. So if you can imagine, there's no step ladders out in Africa, are there? If you're a penguin and you need to get in the water, there's no step ladder for you. You literally have to jump right in, and there's no way for them to climb out. 5 miles per hour, explode out of the ocean, and land on the best rock. And sometimes you don't even get it right the first time, so the wave takes you back out into the water, and then you have to get out, leap out again, and hopefully land in a better spot. Wahoo's cracking me up. Wahoo's actually also a trained penguin, so if you guys ever get to come to the zoo again, Wahoo is in 2 shows at the Animal Encounters Village. African species is also an endangered species of penguin. Can you tell me what an endangered species is? Does that mean there's a lot or a little? That's a great explanation. They can only catch 1 fish at a time, but what people are really good at doing is catching hundreds of fish at a time inside their nets. So if you guys like to eat seafood at home, you can actually just look up online what are the best kind of fish to eat. Because if we eat too many of the kinds that penguins like, or whales, or orcas, or anything like that, then those animals will become extinct. So what we do at the Columbus Zoo is we actually educate people about the African black-footed penguin and how you can take care of them at home without having to go to Africa. But that's little Wahoo, our African black-footed penguin. Thank you. This is PJ, our 2-toed sloth, and really all that means is he has 2 claws on his arms. That's about it. He's a 2-toed sloth. Now, when Calvin's walking around, PJ is looking at you guys the same way that we look at each other. Have you ever been on the monkey bars or at the playground and you kind of hang upside down and the world flips over? And then when you flip back up, you're all dizzy? That doesn't happen to PJ. Everything that he sees is the same way that we look at each other. The world isn't flipped upside down for him. And he never gets dizzy. Sloths hang out in trees literally their whole entire life. They are the slowest moving mammal in the whole entire world. But trust me, PJ can move a little faster if he wants to. He chooses not to. They usually sleep 22 hours a day. So that's about 2 hours to be awake, to eat a little bit, maybe clean your fur off, but they don't clean their fur off very often because they're so lazy, and find a new place to sleep. That's pretty much what sloths do. Now, because they're so slow, do you think they'd be hard to capture or easy to capture? Pretty easy to capture. So the sloths have a couple great ways to hide from jaguars and harpy eagles out in South America. Because they're in the rainforest, they're all high up in the trees. Now, what color are leaves?
Green.
They're green. What color is PJ?
Brown.
Brown. Doesn't match up, right? you're actually looking at a very, very, very clean sloth. Because when they're out in the jungle, they sit there so still that when it rains, all of the water gets stuck on their fur, it pools on their belly, and it spreads all throughout their fur and their hair. And they actually grow moss and algae everywhere. So it's kind of like if you have fish at home or you go to a pond and you see all that green slime everywhere, that's what grows on the sloth's fur out in the wild. So that helps with their camouflage and allows them to blend in and hide. Now, something else that they do is they try to stay as stealthy and quiet as possible. Now, we probably have to go to the bathroom a few times a day, right? We probably go, 4 times a day, maybe more if we drink a lot of water. The sloth goes to the bathroom once a week. Come into the zoo and we feed and clean every single animal enclosure in our department. Now, when the sloth goes to the bathroom, the first thing you do when you open up the building, you know the sloth went to the bathroom. Because they've been holding it for a week. PJ can hold a gallon of number 1 and a pound of number 2. Isn't that crazy? Can you imagine? He would literally be the best person to road trip with because he would never have to stop to go to the bathroom. But the reason they do that, it's very important because they're so slow, it takes them the whole entire day to go all the way down to the bottom of a tree and climb all the way back up. They don't want to go to the bathroom up high. Can you imagine if you were 150 feet off the ground and you went to the bathroom all the way up there? Probably would be pretty loud coming down, right? Making lots of fun noises all the way down as it's hitting the branches. And it also would release the smell right into the air. So what they do is they try to hide it. They climb really quietly all the way down to the base of the tree. They hug the bottom of the tree a little bit, go to the bathroom, and then climb all the way back up. And like I said, it takes the whole entire day to do that. Can you imagine crawling to the bathroom and back and it took you 24 hours?
It takes the whole day.
That's a lot of hard work for a 15-pound sloth. Now, if you're an animal like the jaguar or a harpy eagle and you see a sloth on the ground, you want to try to grab it really quickly. Because they're not made for crawling on the ground. If you guys ever watch YouTube videos, there's this really, really funny video, you can look it up when you get home, of a sloth trying to cross the street, and these tourists come up and the sloth's laying in the middle of the road going like this, and it can't figure out how to move across the road. So all of the people, they try to pick up the sloth and they play I Believe I Can Fly, but he cannot crawl on the ground. He's only made for hanging. He is actually so strong that he can hang from his back legs, let his arms dangle, and only using his ab muscles do a full crunch all the way back up. And his arms never get tired. Calvin's arms for sure will get tired holding this little sloth. But when he's hanging up in the trees, his legs and his arms all lock into place and they literally never get tired. So it's actually pretty easy to be a sloth. You just kind of mope around, you eat a little bit, and they don't even have teeth like people do. They're kind of like tusks, which is really strange. And if you guys have any cows around town, the sloth's digestive system is just like a cow's. So their mouth is filled with bacteria and all sorts of gross stuff that starts digesting all of their food. But their favorite things to eat are like tree bark, leaves, and fruit if they can get it. So what we do at PJ's house at the zoo is there's a wooden ladder on the ceiling, and he has different den boxes and ropes to hang on. And he actually chews all of the wood and all of the bark off of every single thing inside his house. So we have to redo his house pretty frequently to keep it fresh for PJ. So I know I told you guys about this cat, so let's stay as quiet as possible for little Miss Sienna. As you can see, she's a mover and a shaker. She's not a cat that likes to sit still. So has anybody ever heard of the African serval before? It's not, you guys have, a couple of you have. This is not a very well-known cat. She kind of looks like a baby cheetah, but this is actually as big as she's ever going to get. She's full grown. And she actually weighs only about 25 pounds. That's it. So this is not like your house cat at home, because I'll tell you why. She can do something pretty interesting. Out in Africa, they live in those tall savanna grasses. And the grasses in Africa during that wet, rainy season, before all the herds come through and they cut all the grasses are about this tall. So what servals do is they hunker down in the grass and they're completely camouflaged. So then, if another animal is around, birds, rodents, anything small, reptiles that they like to eat, their ears are so big that just like the owl, she doesn't need her eyesight to hunt all the time. She'll actually jump over the grass like a pogo stick, and that's how she'll hunt all her prey. But she can also jump 10 feet straight into the air. So if any of you guys like to watch basketball or you like to play basketball, the serval could actually slam dunk repeatedly and beat all of those NBA players, all those college basketball players. Because what she's really good at is all she'll do is just sit very still. She doesn't even need a running start. If you're a basketball player and you want to slam dunk, you're running down and making a huge leap. All the serval does is sit still and then leap up 10 feet into the air. So they're very, very, very active, agile cats. Now her back legs are longer than her front legs, and she kind of has a weird shaped body, right? This isn't like any cat you've probably ever seen. Her ears are the biggest ears of any cat in the world for her body size. Her tail is medium, because if you can imagine, if you are jumping 10 feet into the air, you don't want to get your tail all tangled up when you land. So she has a medium tail, teeny tiny small face, teeny tiny delicate paws, and you can actually come to the zoo and see a serval jump 10 feet into the air. We have another serval, her name is Kenya, and Kenya lives at the Animal Encounters Village where Wahoo does his bird shows. Now if you guys get a chance to visit the zoo this summer, you do not want to miss this. It is absolutely awesome. If you go next to Stingray Bay, there's a really colorful building. That's the Animal Encounters Village by the entrance. They have an Africa show every day at 1 o'clock. And in the Africa show, Kenya comes out, the little serval. She's as big as little Miss Sienna here. She sits on a stage. They give her a feather target that's 10 or 12 feet off the ground, and she jumps straight up, hits it with her paws, lands, and gets a huge food reward. And there have been times where she's actually ripped all the feathers off of the feather target and runs away with them. And we also have, when you see her, a lot of people, like I mentioned, think it's a baby cheetah. This is actually the second fastest cat in the world. So she can actually run about 45 miles per hour at a full sprint, which is pretty impressive, while cheetahs can go about 70 miles per hour. We do have 3 cheetah runs at the zoo. We have our new exhibit, the Heart of Africa exhibit, and you can come to the zoo, and every day during our summer hours, we have cheetah runs at 10:30, 12:30, and 2:30. So you can get the opportunity at the watering hole to actually see a cheetah run its full speed. But again, this is little Miss Sienna. She's an African serval. If you guys go home, another fun YouTube video you can look up is serval hunting. It's spelled S-E-R-V-A-L. And they'll show you this really cool video from the Smithsonian Institute, and it shows you how the serval does its whole entire hunting. If the other ear can go left, they don't have to do the same thing at the same time. So kind of a strange, interesting cat. This is the only armadillo in the world that can roll up into a ball like this. So in South America, where you actually will find sloths, you'll also find this teeny tiny 3-banded armadillo. And what's really cool about the sloth and the armadillo is they're actually pretty closely related, but they look nothing alike. The only thing that looks alike on an armadillo are their teeth, their dentition, and their claws. So Bonita, her front claws are actually so long that when she walks, she looks like a ballerina in high heels trying to tiptoe around. They're actually insectivores, so what an armadillo will do is they'll run around. Kevin will put her down after a little while. But what they'll do is they'll run around and they look like a little motorized, little energized bunny. And they keep their nose straight to the ground. Now, if you're an insect, you think you walk on the grass saying, "Hey, over here, come eat me." No, definitely not. All of those little worms and insects like ants and termites are hiding underneath the ground. So what they do is they can actually smell a worm 6 inches underneath the ground.
Wow.
And it is totally believable. A lot of times we visit a lot of interesting places, and one place that we went to was a golf course. And my coworker decided, I'll just let the armadillo kind of walk around, and he was talking to somebody that worked at the golf course. And the armadillo apparently found a worm and decided to actually dig a hole in one of the most expensive putting greens in Columbus. Jaguar, or maybe some kind of eagle, when you're trying to eat an armadillo, all you do is try to roll them around until they open up. But that's how strong she is. They also have a really strange shell. Her shell is actually made out of the same thing that's in your fingernail. The armadillo is the same way. She can feel when we touch her and touch her back, and the same protein that's in there is actually in her shell. So she can actually feel everything that's going on. And just kind of like a cat or dog, she has whiskers, but they're on her belly. So she has whiskers that stick out of the sides of her shell so that she can feel what's going on. It also helps too. Her eyesight isn't that great. So if she's digging down into the earth and she feels little insects and worms moving those little hairs, she knows exactly where to grab them.
this way.
But Calvin's going to put her on the ground. You guys can see what she does. Sometimes she moves around. Maybe she found a worm right there. Let's see. I think she found something good. She's digging a hole right here. Right in the middle of the amphitheater. Way to go, Bonita. She's doing good work. This is what will happen. The way that they will defend themselves too is she'll dig a hole and then she'll close up halfway into the hole so animals have trouble trying to dig them out of the ground. But you'll see her poke her little head up. She's got her little ears. And when she's curled up into a ball, she can't see. Her shell hides her eyes, and her ears are all folded in, so it's hard to hear, so she has to rely on a sense of touch.
Yeah, she's trying to find a bug.
So if you've seen the movie Madagascar, you've probably seen King Julian jumping around. I like to move it, move it. That's pretty much true for Julian. He's a very active little dude. He's a ring-tailed lemur, and he actually only weighs about 4.5 pounds. So that is as big as he will ever be. He's full grown. And right now I'm giving him lots and lots of food. He's getting banana, sweet potato, and lemur biscuits, so all sorts of healthy stuff. But true to his name, and from the movie Madagascar, lemurs only live on the island of Madagascar. So basically, their day is pretty hilarious. If you're a ring-tailed lemur, you wake up and you're kind of chilly. Do you ever have that feeling in the morning when you don't want to get out of bed? And you're wrapped up in your covers and you're like, oh, not again. That's how lemurs feel too. When they wake up in the morning, they're hanging out with their troop and they're all cuddled up together. They're very social. They like to cuddle up at night. And he hangs out during the day. He's not nocturnal like other lemurs. So they wake up, and because they're so chilly after they get out of their cuddle bunch, they go and do yoga outside in the sun.
Yoga.
So if you guys want to sit like a lemur that's doing yoga, you sit crisscross applesauce, bunch down with your hands out like this, puff your chest out, and that's how they do yoga. Yep, I see you guys doing it. You look great. So then as the sun is hitting their body, that warms them up and helps them when they're feeling chilly. After they're done doing a little bit of yoga, then they'll go gallivanting around Madagascar, and they'll go looking for leaves, they'll go looking for fruit, insects, and that's what they like to eat. Then after that, sometimes they get into arguments with other lemurs. Ring-tailed lemurs do something called stink fighting. Has anybody ever seen like Star Wars where they have lightsabers and they're going like this? Yep. You think he carries around a little sword? That would be cool. I wish he did. But what they do is if they see a lemur that they don't like from a rival troop that's coming through the forest, they'll actually take these really stinky smells and this gross sticky liquid, they rub it all over their tail, and then they take their tail and they shake it at the other lemur and scream at it. Right? That's what they do. So actually, a ring-tailed lemur could get into an argument with another little guy and they never touch each other. I've actually seen a video of this because I thought, I've never seen Julian's stink fight. I don't even know what that looks like. I looked it up online, and funny enough, two little lemurs got into a fight and they never touched each other. They just screamed the whole time and shook their tails like this, which was really funny to watch. Now, King Julian was our last animal, and as I promised you guys, we're going to hang out until 7:30, and we will have the little armadillo come out and our kangaroo. But thank you guys for bringing a great audience. I really appreciate it, and you know, we hope you guys can come visit us at the zoo, and especially come see our new exhibit, Heart of Africa. It's really awesome.
Are you satisfied with having petted the kangaroo?
Yeah.
Don't touch your face, guys. Don't touch that. Just like with the guinea pigs, you don't touch the food, right? Going to eat or looking for food?
She's shaking.
Or go in the bathroom.
She's shaking.
And sometimes she doesn't even open up for that. Twitching is pretty much normal for an armadillo. So sometimes they have so much, we just want to touch her just on her back.
The hair is moving.
Yeah, you can see the hairs I was talking about that stick out the side. It's normal for her to twitch. She twitches when she's awake, when she's asleep. She's just kind of like a little chihuahua with a lot of energy. It's all, if she was afraid, what they do is they open, close, open, close, open, close, and that's her way of telling me she's uncomfortable and time to go back.
Okay.
44.
44. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that'll.
It's point blank.